Welcome to the Joyful Nourishment podcast with your host, Linn I, a registered nutrition therapist and body image coach. This is a place for community and conversations about all things food, eating, body image, and so much more. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome back to another voice notes from Linn. And in this week, I wanted to answer a reader question that I got submitted on Instagram. And again, if you want to have a question answered, you can email me, linn@straightforwardnutrition.com, or you can post a question here on Substack, or feel free to send me a DM on Instagram as well. And I would love for you to ask these questions so I can do them live in this format. But anyway, let's get on with the question. So the questions from the listener and the reader was, why do I eat when stressed? And I think this is super common. And let's just kind of unpack this together. Let's go through this a little bit and think about why this might be. So first of all, I want to say, give yourselves heaps of compassion. Being stressed, living in today's society where there is a multi amounts of reasons for us to feel stressed, overwhelmed, anxious. So bring loads and loads of kindness and compassion towards yourself. That you are turning to food to cope with stressful things and a stressful life is okay. So we don't need to add a second arrow, as they say in Buddhism, to beat ourselves up, shame ourselves for actually trying to cope with a life load. The other thing, once we kind of created a space of kindness, is to bring some curiosity to the situation. Because if we want to ask ourselves, why do I eat when I'm stressed? If we come at it with a sort of a curious attitude, we can maybe create a bit more space to see what's actually going on beyond just the reaction to eat food, whether we're hungry or not, or just for feeling stressed. So first of all, I would ask you to check in to see how long was it since the last time you had a meal or a snack. Because sometimes when we're stressed or overwhelmed, we might simply forget to eat. So it can be a long time before we had between the last snack we had, I should say, or our previous meal. So it could also be that, you're simply running out of food. And in the moment, we're not thinking about, it's this many hours since I last ate, so must be why I'm hungry, and that I'm actually hungry. We might just be habitually reaching for food, but underneath that, it actually might be your body telling your brain that, you need some food to function. So that is one thing to look at. If you're kind of stress eating in particular situations, maybe it's at work, maybe it's on the way home from work, maybe it's when you've come home from work, and just start with there. I always like to start with, how long was it since the last meal or snack? Just to make sure that we're taking care of our physical needs. But let's see and think that maybe you have eaten, maybe you ate a couple of hours ago, maybe you're actually not that hungry, but you're still eating. So another thing that often comes up as well is eating so that we can take a break. And I thought about this before. I remember years and years ago, I used to work on a big stud farm, and people were smoking, and obviously they couldn't smoke around the horses, so they had to go outside of the barn to smoke. And it was a quite full-on job, not that many breaks, and people would take breaks. So they would take breaks from their duties and they'd go outside and they'd smoke. And the thing was, when people are smoking, they're taking a legit kind of 5 minutes break, or whatever length it takes time it takes to smoke a cigarette. But if you're not smoking, and I'm not advocating that you're taking up smoking either, when we're eating, it can also be a way of like, well, I'm eating, so basically I'm not available. And that's another way that we can do that. We might, particularly if we're in a job where it's difficult to take those pauses or those breaks, or we might feeling overwhelmed and we just need a moment. And if we're struggling to actually create space to take those moments or give ourselves permission to take a pause or step away, then the food can become that bridge to create the permission to step away because we're eating. And of course, the food also works really well as a sort of a distraction and diversion, because if my head is kind of busy, I feel like the phone does the same thing. Sometimes when I'm working and I'm concentrating on something, and it just feels like my brain isn't able to do it. If I just like pick up my phone and just look at something else, it's like, oh, like it just gives a break just because I'm struggling to concentrate. And getting up and getting a snack or eating something can do the same thing. So that's another reason. And then of course there's this thing that food gives us an opportunity to take a break, but also as we're eating in the moment, it can have a very calming, it can have a very grounding effect. It might give us a dopamine hit. So in the moment of eating, that experience can create a sense of calm, of feeling in control, and just feeling grounded. But if we're then coupling it with thinking, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or why am I doing this, we're kind of adding on a layer of that doesn't make it feel helpful. But eating and food can be a really useful way to help calm down our nervous system when we're feeling overwhelmed. So this might be another reason why you're eating when you're stressed. And the final thing that I wanted to say on this is that I have seen over and over again, which I find so interesting, is that if you're feeling overwhelmed or emotional and struggling and things are feeling really stressful and chaotic, and there's one particular food, very distinct food, might be a particular brand, it might be a particular dish or a particular type of food that you're always reaching for in those moments. So say you're reaching for, you're craving, I'm just making something up, like a toasty or something. And that's kind of what you love eating. And when we dig around that, often what I find with people is that particular food, it's not just the food itself. It's just not eating with the other experiences or the other reasons that I have already outlined. It's also that particular food, that particular taste and flavor and smell, often when this is present, holds a memory, an embodied memory of times in the past where this food was connected to care, to safety, to nourishment. So when we're reaching for that specific food, that is the needs we're trying to meet. So let's recap. So when we're thinking about why do I eat when I'm stressed? First of all, bring some kindness and compassion to yourself. This is a way that you're taking care of yourself in the moment, and that's okay. And from here, from this place of kindness and care, bring some curiosity. Checking in. How long was it since the last time I ate? Am I hungry? And check in. Am I needing a break? Maybe you are tired. Maybe you just need to step away to think clearly. Maybe you need to step away from people for a sec. Maybe you just need to step out to take a deep breath. And I did talk in a previous voice note around reasons where we're eating when we're tired. And this kind of overlaps, I think. And then reminding ourselves that food and eating can be a useful way of calming ourselves down. So picking something and eating something, ideally if we're doing it in a mindful, intentional way, can actually be a really grounding, nourishing thing to take care of ourselves. And then finally, get curious if there's some very specific food that you're always craving, always reaching for when you're feeling stressed. Maybe this food is reminding you of home, maybe it's reminding you of a particular person or particular part or time of your life when this food was really nourishing, and not just physically but also emotionally and maybe spiritually. So I hope this was helpful. I would love to hear if you have any thoughts on this particular question. Is this something that you can relate to? Do you have further questions for me? Please feel free to drop them in the comment section here. So just click on the button that says leave a comment, and I would love for us to have a conversations around this topic and maybe furthering our understanding and learning a little bit more. And as always, thanks for listening. I'll see you again soon. Take care. That was everything for this week. If you want to find out more, you can find me on my Substack, Joyful Nourishment, or you can go and visit my website, www.straightforwardnutrition.com. And please come back to Substack and leave a comment if this have sparked your interest, if it had made you think, if you have something that you want to share that would be helpful for all of us in this community as we grow together. Again, thank you, and I'll see you soon.